Hello guys, for today I have a budget strategy to farm apothecaries in the Crimson Temple map. Before starting the video, I want to start with some disclaimer points. So first, we have that these maps that we're going to see with this setup are pretty damn hard, okay? Crimson Temple is an enclosed map and we are running Harbingers and Beyond Demons, and Harbingers have this mechanic with these protection balls, and the demons are special mobs that deals a ton of damage. So this is basically hell itself. So be aware that your build has to take these maps, and on top of that you have to consider that these are 8-mod maps with wandering path. If you try my cemetery strategy that I uploaded before in the channel, this is way harder than that, so take that into consideration. Then the apothecary card has a very low drop rate, so that will mean that the variance will be high. The average we have for this strat, consider that this is budget, you are expected to drop one apothecary card each 266 maps. So it is possible to go 500 maps without one, or you can run 10 maps and drop one. And finally, that my character has more MF than before compared to my older strategies. So now I'm running with 48 IIQ and 150 rarity increase. And I will repeat the same. I always recommend to add some of MF into your builds. So for example, you can add 2 Ventors and try to balance the resist from elsewhere, since you don't need that much damage. You can PoE that based on your build. Okay, so for the table of content of the video, we are going to start talking about the setup that I did. Then I'm going to show you the cost for 40 maps. That was my test run that I ran using this strategy. Then we're going to quickly see the Atlas tree. Then we're going to analyze the loot that I got from all of these maps. Then I have a special chapter comparing order cards with the apothecary cards, and we're going to analyze the weights from the divination cards and make an estimation of how many apothecaries we should be dropping using this strategy. And finally, we have the profit calculations to see how much we made in 1 hour, and some final words as a conclusion. So for the setup, I'm using from the Scarabs, the Harbinger, the Reliquary, the Torment, and the Deviation. One thing to mention is that you shouldn't be using Reliquary if you have no MF into your gear, so be free to use anything else. For example, you can use the Elder Scarabs to add more mobs into these maps. Then for the Sextons, I'm using the Mirror one, the Harvey, the Magic Pack size to get more mobs into these maps, and finally Quantity, that will get further increased by the increased modifiers we have in your Atlas. Then we are using the Red Influence because I want to have the currency right now and not pray for a Divine Altar, and also I don't like to read altars, so I always choose Red the whole league. Then finally, in the map device, we're using Beyond, as we mentioned before. We are going to be filling with a lot of mobs, and once we kill off all of those mobs, more mobs are going to spawn from Beyond. This is a quick glance of all of the costs for the 40 maps. I have in the right list of everything and how much it cost. And for the 40 maps, I almost spent 8 divines. So as you can see, I have the 8-mod map. Each one was 20 chaos. And we have the Scarabs and the Sextants, all of them bought in bulk. I always recommend buying them in bulk. I prefer to pay a little bit more and to play before. This is the Atlas tree. I will leave a PoE planner link in the description. Okay, so this is all the stuff that I got from these 40 maps. As you can see, there are a bunch of currency, a lot of maps you can see here. There's some uniques. I got, I think it was 3 head shivers. And I also have a small tab here with some remaining stuff. Okay, pricing everything in PoE Stack, we have a total value of 44 divines. This is after culling the items that are valued from 2 chaos and below, so we remove the trash. And yeah, as you can see in the top of the list, we have some raw divines drops. As I did not drop an apothecary, this is very important to know. I dropped 1 7 years with luck. I dropped 2 Voidborn Kings. They are pretty pricey right now because people like to gamble with the keys and that kind of stuff. We have some good uniques. For example, I dropped a Storm Shroud that I would love to use, but I cannot on my build. I have an invitation here that this is for 28 maps, so we have to add the difference to because we did 40 maps. And yeah, the rest of stuff is the usual stuff. Here we have the categories. Most of the currency comes from, sorry, more of the profits comes from the currency. So this is a pretty good sign because we won't have to trade that much. We can convert less stuff basically. Then we have stuff from fragments, from scallops, and we drop from the loot conversion. Some of the cards that are still good. For example, we have the 7 years. We dropped 3 enlightens. And yeah, this is all the stuff. If we want to take a look at the list, we'll scroll here up to the end. And yeah. Okay, now for the apothecary drop calculation, I used the weights from order cards, and I intentionally included some of the cards that drop more frequently, for example the Encroaching Darkness and the Lord of Celebration, that they both have a drop rate that's around 100 times more common compared to the Apothecary. So I picked them both to gauge the drop rate using this strategy to see how often we should get an Apothecary. And in 40 maps I got a similar amount, and these two cards has a similar weight. So I do believe that this is accurate. In 40 maps I dropped 14 in the Encroaching Darkness and 17 the Lord of Celebration. So that's the equivalent around of 12% and 18% respectively. And then we can see that the 7 years bad luck has an equivalence with the Apothecary, that's 12%. And in the other hand, we have that the enlightened weight, we got 3 of them, and based on its weight we should have dropped at 30% of an Apothecary. I do think that based on the ordered cards, this is most likely an anomaly, and yeah, in other words, we just got lucky dropping the enlightened. But I think that using the Encroaching Darkness and the Lord of Celebration cards, they can give a very good measure about the Apothecary drop. So we do estimate that we have around a 15% of an Apothecary in terms of expected value. So considering that the Apothecary is a value of 65 divines each, we have that 50% of that value is 9.75 divines. So that's the theoretical value that we did make by running these 40 maps. So we are going to consider this in the profit calculation, and we're also going to get a number without an Apothecary because we can get unlucky, and yeah. Okay, so for the profits we saw that almost 44 divines without an Apothecary, and if you consider the Apothecary, that would be 53 divines each. Then we saw that the investment that we did for everything, that is the maps, the scraps and sextants, is roughly 8 divines. So we can conclude that the profits are 35 divines if we don't get any Apothecary, and at the moment that we get an Apothecary, we are going to rise the number up to 45 divines in 40 maps. So considering that each map takes around 7 minutes, so 40 maps, that's around 4 hours, and that's 6. That will be around 4 hours in 40 minutes. And I have a capture here with the map time. As you can see, these all are Crimson Temples, except I run a cemetery here. So yeah, you can see some of my latest maps that I run for this strategy. So we have a total profit per hour that's 7.6 divines if you never drop an Apothecary, and if you drop an Apothecary, that the profits will going up to 9.7 divines per hour. Again, consider that my build has 48 quantity and 150 rarity, so these numbers will be a bit lower if you don't run any MF. But the MF stats aren't that influential comparing to other strategies that works with exploiting the drop rate percentages. Here we are just in a lot of monsters, and we want to be rolling dice continuously. So yeah, it's more important to run these maps efficiently without dying and without breaking these maps than having MF. So some final words: the strat definitely has a pretty good returns. especially because it's a budget strategy that you can run with only 8 divines for 40 maps. So this is very accessible for most of the players. Then I want to mention the downsides. That is that the Apothecary has a very low drop chance, therefore it will have a high variance, so we can run 300 maps and that won't be rare. We can get no Apothecary in those 300 maps. Remember that based on our calculations, it's one Apothecary, it's 266 maps. Then the other downside is that these maps are pretty damn hard. As I already said, it's filled with mobs in an enclosed space, and yeah, the mobs, for example, for extra movement and extra attack speed turns out to be very deadly. Meanwhile, in the cemetery map, they won't be an issue at all. Yeah, and that's it for this video. I hope you liked, and if you want to see more PoE content, be sure to subscribe. And yeah, guys, see you in the next one.